Live, a brand new episode of The Nevers just came on, and we're finally starting to get the story going. Big developments regarding Malady and her backstory. So we're going to get into it all. Before we get started, be sure to hit that subscribe button, click the bell. We already watched the same TV show, so you might as well join. A lot to go over in this episode, so let's dive right into it. So we're going to start off with Malady and her origin. So what we knew from the beginning was that she was going through some kind of mental issues. When she was touched at the end of the last episode, they showed that big flashback scene showing the event that created these touched people when they started to what they call turn. And she was already in an insane asylum. Okay. But what ended up happening is she was abused, and she was somebody that Mrs. True right here already knew from her past. But she abandoned her. And so Malady and True, they go way back. They have a history. And so they're going to dive more into that as the show goes on. But for now, we know that they know each other. And that happens in that last scene when she has them two both not Lucy. Let me get my names here because the show's still brand new. We have Penance. So she actually got into a little bit of a love type situation with Augustus, Mrs. Bidlow. She's pretty crazy. But I digress. Anyway, she had why am I forgetting her name again? They had Penance. Yes, they had Penance and Mary Brighton, aka the Songbird. They had them hanging. And that was the situation at the end of the episode. So we're gonna get into it all. Let's get into this. So the episode deals with more of the story, as the first episode had us, introducing the characters and stuff like that, understanding the world, understanding the touched and how their powers work. We're introduced to a new character. They never name her name is Elizabeth. I like to call her Float because she made things float. But basically, she's just used as a plot device to get us to that crazy doctor who was cutting holes in people's heads. And that's what ultimately ended up revealing that Mrs. Bidlow has her fingers in so many pots. She's not only dealing with True and the gang there at the house, but she's also dealing with the crazy doctor. And they seem to have found the crashed ship. That ship that created all the touched folk. So Mrs. Bidlow is bad news. Here we have her in a picture from the first episode. But yeah, so this is Mrs. Bidlow, and that's right there. Oops, wrong picture there. Let's see. That's Augustus right here. And so Augustus and why do I keep forgetting Penance? It's a weird name. So Augustus and Penance, not Augustus and Penance. I'm all over the place tonight. I'm excited. Yeah, no, I was right. Augustus and Penance end up having this love situation. They seem to be falling for each other when there's a party thrown, and it's thrown by Mrs. Bidlow as she showcases her fancy touched people, and they show off some of their powers. We see Lucy using her vibration power, sound waves, and Augustus reveals to Penance that he doesn't turn into a crow, but he has the ability to see through a crow's eyes. Super weird stuff. But he ends up falling for her, I guess, in just that short little while. And Mrs. Bidlow, I guess, was eavesdropping the entire time, says, look, you can't do this. She's a racist. She says, look, the girl's Irish. You can't be with her, blah, blah, blah. And so he's like, man. So he ends up following her with the crow's eyes, and I guess he was going to keep following her, but he decides not to, and that's how Bonfire Annie gets her hands on her and has her in the situation at the end of the episode. Now, one thing I find really interesting is that for the most part, True is aware of, kind of the big event at the end of every episode here. Oh, whoops. We minimized that. At the end of every episode from very early on, True had a vision of her beating the mess out of Malady earlier in the episode, and that's kind of how the episode ends. Now, I got super Batman vibes. Like, it just seemed weird. She's doing a fantastic job, by the way, Malady. She's an incredible villain. Just her whole spiel is that because of her abuse by these men of, I guess, some religious sect or religious faith, she equates those men and pain with God. So they're playing with a really interesting psychological development with her character, that she now thinks that pain is a good thing. And the problem for her is that Mary Brighton, aka the Songbird, the one who sings and it reveals which people are touched, she takes away that pain for Malady. Did you catch that? And the thing is, she's not used to not having pain. And so she really resents that and really hates that. So at the end of the episode, we see that she was friends with True, and she believes that True abandoned her. And so at the end of the episode, she's like, "Oh, well, you've got all these new best friends. Well, who really is your best friend? I'm right here, and I've got your two other best friends, hanging, about to hang here. If one drops, they both drop, etc." And so she makes this crazy move. But again, with Dr. Horatio and those types of characters, she doesn't, I guess, need to worry about like just straight up shooting herself sometimes because she knows Dr. Horatio can just heal her right up. So I guess she's willing to take more chances when it comes to that kind of stuff. Where's Horatio? There he is. And there's Songbird as well right there. Oh, you guys can only see Songbird there. Let's zoom in a little bit. There he is. So Horatio has those healing powers, and basically True is on bed rest right now. She can't go anywhere because she shot herself. So that happened in the episode. I'm really liking where the story's going as far as the development, and it all seems to be tied to Mrs. Bidlow. She's got her hands in every situation. She has the location of that special ship that caused the touch people to arrive. She has True as her right hand woman, dealing with all the people that are touched, including Primrose, who's also just an awesome character. It was funny, her taking pictures with folks at the party. That was really cool. Some other characters we get more introduction to are Frank Mundy. Frank Mundy is the investigator. He has a problem with fighting people. And he was betrothed, I guess, or engaged to Mary Brighton, aka the Songbird, the one who can sing and reveal which people are touched in the vicinity. So he was looking for her. That was his primary motivation. And when they found her, tied obviously by a noose in Malady's, I guess, would you call that a lair? I don't know. She was underground. When they found that out, they took her back to the house, Mrs. Bidlow's house, that True runs with Penance. And so she's going to stay there, become part of that crew. One thing that's also interesting is it seems that the majority of the touched are women. There are men who are touched, but it seems to be few and far in between, as we have Dr. Horatio being touched with that healing ability, Augustus Bidlow being like a crow. So he can like look into a crow's eyes, I guess. But he didn't do that job very well because he should have kept an eye here on Penance. As she was easily able to be captured by Bonfire Annie. Now, remember, Penance can see electricity, but she's not necessarily a manipulator of electricity. She can see it and use it and do all those things. And she's a fantastic inventor, but obviously in a situation like that, she was not prepared to take on Bonfire Annie. Now, I feel like they should just be more aware of things like this, especially in the age that they're living in with all this being so new and these superpowered people. You could guess that some of this stuff is going to go wrong. One thing I would like to know, leave down in the comments what superpower, I guess, touched ability would you want to have if you could have one. I think float is definitely cool. I think it's super original because it's kind of like super strength. You can lift anything by just touching it. I don't know. But definitely I think float would be one of the powers that I would want. So the way this episode leaves off is where the crazy doctor is cutting into the head of Elizabeth, aka Float. And what they seem to be doing is using these touched individuals to mine the ship that crashed at the end of the last episode. So remember, that ship that put out those particles that anybody who it landed on became touched, that crashed into the ground at the end of the episode, or kind of like disappeared, but it seems to be lodged in the ground. And for some reason, Miss Bidlow is the only one with enough power and resources to be at that location, excavating whatever's there and manipulating it for her own gain. So there's definitely, that's where it's going to go from that point. Just incredible job once again by Malady. I think she's done such a great job as portraying that crazy character. And obviously we got a lot of background on her character because she is kind of the main antagonist. Although she got KO'd at the end of this episode, she seems to be pretty much down, but she did escape. So I don't know why Bonfire Annie turned against her, because remember at the end of the episode, Mrs. True, she shot herself in order to whatever. I guess she knew that her ratio would heal her, but she chose to do that to kind of take herself out of having to make that choice. And then she shoots Malady here. Now, Malady goes to cut her with the saw she has, and Bonfire Annie comes to the rescue. So I don't know if Bonfire Annie is having a change of heart. Who knows what could be happening there? There was a scene earlier in the episode where she says, "Listen, I can do what was it? I can do crazy. I just can't do stupid." So you could see that Bonfire Annie was having some issue with her right off the bat, and it's like, are you kidding me? You can't do stupid. I mean, who knows if she's actually, I think Malady is actually very intelligent. She's abused to the point where she thinks that pain is actually a sign of God's like presence or something like that because of what she was put through. Remember when Mrs. True and Frank Mundy, aka the investigator, when they were going over those papers, they could see kind of Malady's history at the insane asylum and stuff like that, and see that she was abused by some religious sect. And so that's what's caused her to equate godliness with pain. And so why that's such a big thing is because Songbird, I guess her song gives hope to those who have been touched. And that's almost, it's so foreign to Malady's character that it's almost like pain. So she wants to get rid of her. But it's like, so what she was doing, Songbird was like, okay, well, let's organize a trade. You know, my family's got a little money. You know, you don't want me here anyway. But Malady didn't seem to be down for that at all. But yeah, so look out for Bonfire Annie here to possibly change sides. She could become part of the group. Primrose doing her thing again. So funny. Such a funny character Primrose is. Taking photo ops with people. Like, she's so polite, yet she's arguably the most powerful person in this show. She is huge, and her strength is probably unmatched, probably like 20, 30 men. She's got the strength of a ton of people. But they haven't really unveiled her powers yet, and I think they will later in the season in a big way. So I think that'll be cool. We have an image of Mawson, and he's kind of working with Hugo. Hugo's got that secret underground kind of kinky chamber, whatever he's doing. Basically, he's manipulating people, catching them in some kind of affair or whatever, and then blackmailing them. So that's how he makes his money. And here, he's trying to weasel up and nuzzle up close to the Bidlow family, and so he's using Hugo to get to Augustus, aka Crowboy. Can we call him Crowboy? Let's call him Crowboy. He's trying to work his way through that. And so we'll see. He's not really an important character, but right now he's just using Hugo as a means to get to the Bidlow family. And it makes a lot of sense because the Bidlows have their hands in everything. So some things for Songbird. We found out a little bit more about her, why she ended up as an actress, why she ended up singing and all that kind of stuff. Kind of boring stuff. It's such a funny part where Melody's like, "Why'd you sing?" And you kind of assumed as an audience that she was asking, "Why did you use your powers in that moment?" But no, she actually just wanted to know how she got into showbiz. So we found out more about her character. I doubt she's going to be that important going down the line as far as the plot, but as far as her powers, obviously super important because she's able to locate other touched individuals. And so that's going to be huge, especially for somebody like Bidlow, who is on the hunt for them all the time. Now, here's something that was the big reveal about the episode. Bidlow is not only in cahoots with the crazy doctor who is cutting people's heads open and stuff like that, and those weird toilet paper mask looking people from the first episode. You remember they were going after Myrtle in the very beginning of the episode. They were going after the girl who could speak different languages. Her name was Myrtle. They are working with Mrs. Bidlow, and so is True. Okay, so we've been wondering where the rat was because at first Mrs. True and Penance, her right-hand woman, they thought that somebody was leaking the location of these touched individuals, and that was how they were ending up at the same place. But what we find out is that Mrs. Bidlow that is a blurry picture. I'm not even going to make you guys look at that one. We'll get a higher resolution one here. Here we go. So what ended up happening actually is that Miss Bidlow is the one tipping off both sides, both crazy doctor surgeon and Mrs. True, to go to the same places to find these powered individuals. And so that's So she's kind of playing both sides against each other. I don't know to what end, as it seems like, they get into a scuffle, people could end up dead, and you're pitting both of your teams against each other. But she's working in secrecy, so the rest of them don't know. Obviously, Mrs. True, Penance here, Dr. Horatio. I got some other ones off to the side. You guys can't see them. But Dr. Horatio here, and let's zoom in a little bit more with his healing powers. He's unaware. Nobody seems to be aware except Mrs. Bidlow. Now, the question is, could Augustus be aware of this? Let's go over here. Could Augustus be aware of what's happening with the Bidlow family? He seems to definitely be in her pocket, as she was easily able to manipulate him into straight up ditching Penance here. They seem to be kind of hitting it off at the party, but Augustus is well within Mrs. Bidlow's grip. So I would imagine she would be kind of forthcoming with her plan, maybe holding it close to the chest, but still, I think that's something that he would know. And if he does know it, see, it gets it's so tangled at this point. But I don't know, they'll sort it out. They haven't really revealed all of that. But yeah, so I know people are trying to see how many times they say touched in this show. But that's definitely something that they use two terms. They say touched and also turn. So turning is what they do. Like if you had a bad turn, that means you had bad powers that came from being touched. A good turn would be obviously the opposite. So there are things going on like that, just so we can get the jargon. It's a very new show. I think Joss Whedon has done a fantastic job, regardless of what happened with the Justice League. I think the show is really good, but unfortunately, he's actually not working on the show anymore. He finished the whole first season, but he's already been fired, so he's not working with the second season. And this show will definitely get a second season. It's too good to not get one. But I definitely, it's weird because I would have liked to see where Joss was going to go with the story. But yeah, so those are the main things. Let me check my notes real quick. I want to make sure we touch on all the biggest points. We had Float. We had the character Desiree, who her power, she was able to make people talk to her and confide in her. She kind of has truth serum. People don't lie to her, or they don't, they're forthcoming. We touched on Frankie Mundy, the investigator, if you're still kind of finding out who these characters are. We have Miss Amelia True, obviously the main character to the left of your screen. Bonfire Annie, who has the fire powers. Miss Lavinia is the first name of Miss Bidlow. True and Penance. Penance is the one to the right of your screen, the red-haired lady. Mary Brighton is Songbird, so we talked about that. Gilbert Masson, who we talked about, is weaseling his way into the Bidlow family. We talked about Lucy Best, who Lucy Best is able to use sound waves. If you saw her, she shattered that vase, and they were talking to Penance, saying, "Oh, the gentlemen are putting down wagers on whether she can shatter the statue in the garden." That was Lucy Best. So Elizabeth is able to use sound waves, I guess, in that way. We talked about Hugo Swan. Hugo Swan is the guy who has that underground kinky chamber down there, which he used. That's not him. That's Augustus there. But he's using that in order to blackmail high-ranking officials, get them caught up in affairs and stuff like that, and then use that information to blackmail them. And then we have Augustus Bidlow being a crow, and then the episode ends with Horatio. So right now, where the episode leaves us is True is on bed rest. Malady is in the wind. she ran off, and nobody knows where she's at, really. Her henchmen have pretty much been captured, so I would imagine Bonfire Annie and the like, they've been taken into custody. Frankie Mundy, the investigator who helped take them all into custody and find that stuff, he has left his betrothed, his engaged wife, aka Mary Brighton, the Songbird. He's left her at the house, Mrs. Bidlow's house, with Mary and Penance, so she's there now. And so that's where the episode leaves us. So let me know what you're excited to see in the next episode. And also leave a comment down below. What power would you want to have kind of out of the powers, the touched abilities that we've seen thus far? So that was episode 2, guys. Obviously, keep it locked here. We're covering so many different shows, and we're always taking suggestions down in the comments below. Got a full week for you guys on our channel and our sister channel, the Lara Quente Ledger. We've got Supergirl and The Flash and those shows. We've got Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the finale. There's a new Apple event with I don't know if you guys are into tech on this channel here, but for those in my tech community, I do a tech show over on our sister channel. So be sure to check that out. Obviously, we kicked it off with the Nevers. Great way to kick it off. And there's a ton of shows coming down the line. So you want to keep it locked here. We already like the same shows. So go ahead, hit subscribe. We'll watch them together. Click the bell and hit the like button. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a good Sunday night, and I will see you probably Monday.